All right, thank you for staying with us. The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC in Nigeria, has been the vanguard of protecting consumer rights diligently, safeguarding the interest of consumers and fostering an environment conducive to healthy competition. As the year 2023 comes to an end, the FCCPC has not only made significant strides in achieving its objectives, but it also generated a staggering 56 billion naira in the process. This remarkable feat underscores the profound impact of the Commission's activities on the consumer goods sector. Well, for more insights into this, I introduced him earlier. He's the Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. He's live in the studio. Mr. Babatunde Irukera. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, but it's really a good one. Beautiful reports for the end of the year from your end. Naturally, I feel you're not a revenue generating agency. 56 billion, 22.4 into federal government coffers is no joke. How did this happen?
You know, the interesting thing is that what we thought we were doing at the end of the year was just to account for how the work and our year has been. But I'm stunned that it's the revenue that has been most newsworthy. Interestingly, our own internal scorecard that we created to check ourselves doesn't show us looking quite as good as those who are reviewing what our revenue generation has been, because revenue is not even one of the items on our scorecard. Our scorecard is to measure how much the needle has moved and how well people are treated and how free and balanced the market has become. And I would also say so myself that looking at the scorecard from where we've come from, we've done quite some work, but I believe we still have a far longer road to travel than where we've traveled. And so we're not partying over the congratulatory messages we're receiving about the revenue. And I think it's good for a regulatory authority to be independent and to be autonomous and to be able to operate without considering what problems. For instance, some of the biggest pieces of work we've done are in part because we're not considering the cost of an investigation, and we still have to prioritize our work. But considering the resource constraint in protecting citizens is always a challenge. And so we're able to do more because of the revenue. But to the question of how this was able to happen, there are a few things I want to make very clear.
Yeah.
We do not proceed because we have a target. Like I said, revenue is not even on, it's not a KPI or on a scorecard. We do not proceed based on wanting to hit a target. And secondly, we are hopeful that companies do not get into the kinds of trouble that makes penalties continue to increase. But at the same time, we will do the work. As a matter of fact, the most important thing to us is protect brands. The key, one of the most important parts of consumer protection is protecting brands. People like those brands. That's why they go to the stores to buy them.
True.
If for any reason we allow a brand to be damaged or to drop off the market, there's an element of consumer protection that's failing. And secondly, from a competition standpoint, we want companies to thrive, not just survive. We want the big to have their space, the small to have their space. In a country like Nigeria, where we have so much unemployment and at the same time a lot of young people and a very entrepreneurial spirit, and perhaps the largest number of small and medium scale businesses in many parts of the world, it's important that you manage the market space in a way that allows everyone to thrive. Finally, I believe that a consequence management system is the best way to modify both corporate or human behavior. And so our approach to penalties is we will do everything we can to facilitate the marketplace. We would allow your business to thrive. And we don't even penalize much. In fact, on the consumer protection side, there isn't that much with. So what we penalize significantly are conduct that are extremely exploitative or that materially affect the market, prevent consumer satisfaction, and at the same time even prevent economic expansion. And for those ones, we have absolutely no apologies. And we would make sure we penalize as, in accordance with the law. And if there are mitigating factors, we will consider them. If there are aggravating factors, we will consider them. The key to this is doing the work.
True.
The key to this is taking the time and the effort to investigate these cases, to determine exactly what has gone wrong, to identify who has done wrong, confront the target of the investigation with their wrongdoing, and proceed from that standpoint with remedies. I strongly believe that if the consequence of inappropriate conduct is a slap on the wrist, then what you're doing is making that inappropriate conduct worth the risk. Because it's worth the risk. If I'm not caught, I can keep what I've gotten, and if I'm caught, I can get away with an apology or a light sentence. No, because penalties are not about making money. It's about making sure that business will not engage in that conduct again. But beyond that, that others looking would say, I don't want to get into that kind of a situation because it's very costly. And so for some of the people in the public who have looked at this from the standpoint of, oh my goodness, just going around and whacking companies, that's not the case. And you know that companies are quite sensitive and quite vocal, and they've got channels. If you're whacking them, you would know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember how many years ago it was that NAFDAC was increasing the cost of registering products by just a marginal amount, and it was all over the news. The federal government had to come in and pull back. Discos want to increase their tariffs, the federal government has to get in and pull back. SON wanted to introduce a new sun cap or man cap or something for authenticity to address the question of quality counterfeits that we have now. Yeah. There was industry yelled, the government had to pull back. Yeah. But that hasn't happened here. And what does that tell you? It shows that the companies know that there can't be any rhetoric when there's evidence. The evidence of your malfeasance exists. The law is absolutely clear about what the penalty regime is, and the evidence of your own revenue and what the law says it means. When a company engages in inappropriate conduct, especially the large companies know this, not the system would make sure that it costs you more than you made from the conduct. That's how systems are worked. It has, in fact, that is the ease of doing business. It's a component of the ease of doing business that there is a transparent accountability framework. There are many ethical businesses that will choose not to do business in an environment where the consequences for inappropriate conduct isn't strong, clear, sustainable, and consistent, because they can't compete because of their own guiding principles. Just look at the airline industry, for instance.
Yes.
Airlines have different safety thresholds. Some airlines say you can't fly once visibility is less than, 20 meters or 100 meters. Those that have their visibility set at 200 meters will fly, and they would appear to be the one that flies on time in bad weather. And so when companies set their own ethical principles and their own compliance thresholds, it behoves on regulators to match those companies by enforcing strictly what the prevailing standard is. It's the only way that brings those types of companies to come into the environment. And by the way, we have an incredibly large, loyal, and fidel market in Nigeria. In spite of our economic difficulties, our market is loyal, large, and vibrant. And the least you can do in such a market is to make sure that the market is well regulated. I say to companies every time, I say our market is open to be explored, but it's not open to be exploited. Explore the market, make the best of it, but if what you want to do here is still a match, cut a corner, to the extent that it's anything within the jurisdiction of the FCCPC, if it doesn't come to our attention, good luck. But if it does come to our attention, real bad luck.
A lot of complaints, and everyone sees that FCPC is more active than it used to be. I must say that because we all know that, yes, sense of responsibility. I'm getting this, I must get service for, I'm paying for this service and I should get that service. But I want to also ask you this, because you can't distort the market and think there won't be any consequence. There must be. There were issues also around the POS guys at a particular time, the loan shark guys, which you all went after. We use some of the video, the pictures of that now on air. What's happening with regards to that at the moment?
Those are two good questions. With respect to digital money lending, we still have problems. Some of the lending...
This was one of the long ago, if you remember.
It was an enforcement
yes.
activity.
Yes.
But I'd say to you that the harassment and the defamatory messages that had become the order of the day have been significantly degraded. And we've gotten our arms to a certain extent around this, at least the ones that have come into the regulatory bucket. We're watching them. And because we've taken a zero tolerance to even one violation has helped. And so I'd say the violation is reduced to less than 20%. Now, does that make it satisfactory? No. We're still going after how to resolve the remaining 20%. And I might say that other countries, including advanced economies like India, other countries like Kenya, Uganda, they're engaging us to try and discover how is it that you've been able to get your arms around this. And we're still, the regulatory framework, like we said, is still limited and interim. The regulatory framework is still evolving. So there's a balance. In fintech, it's new and emerging across the world. Digital money lending is plugging an important gap in society. And so developing the best regulatory ecosystem for that also requires learning from industry, learning from how it is operating. So it's not, ink and paper is the easiest thing. I'm a lawyer by training. I can sit in my office and dictate a regulation, paste it out there, gazette it, and it becomes the law. It could be an impediment. And so in reality, the best regulatory framework is one that has come to understand industry and the interactions there. And so now the limited interim regulatory framework is working, and we're taking learnings from it. As we move into the new year, we would also be addressing newer methods and measures. One of the big issues that we're seeing is that there's now a significant level of loan default because people are not able to use these unethical and inappropriate loan recovery mechanisms. And I'm insistent that you cannot say to me that the only language Nigerians understand is to abuse them. No, I disagree. We must necessarily do the work, no matter how hard it is, to find a more sensible way to recover loans. Because I also agree that if these digital money lenders are unable to recover their loans and drop out of the market, it's a consumer protection problem because of those who need those types of short-term unsecured lending. And so we have to find the balance. And so some of the regulations that will come out will be a broader approach to responsible borrowing, responsible lending, and even individual and corporate fiscal responsibility. I'm hopeful that the future of what we're building is that even schools, landlords would be able to report to a centralized credit system about the conduct of tenants, students, parents, so that we can know each person's level of fiscal responsibility or creditworthiness. I believe that once there is a systemic approach that prevents you from access to credit on account of your own responsibility or otherwise, then it will self-regulate people and then loan recovery. Because why we find out that most of those who owe the DMLs are the same people. They repeat several DMLs. And so we can address that if there was a central place where they could get information about individuals and their creditworthiness. If you don't have access to credit, you have an obligation to build your responsibility and your creditworthiness. And so there's quite a lot still in the pipeline that we've been working on, and we anticipate that 2024 will cause that to emerge. With respect to the POS, that's one of the areas where competition law requires quite some work. Historically, our markets have proceeded in an anti-competitive way, where there are market associations, trade and professional associations as platforms for determining the price of services. And so that's what the POS agents went on to do. But because that's an area where several unemployed people, otherwise unemployed people work, we've got people with a small umbrella on the roadside, in the villages, everywhere. And so we're not going to come out strongly. So we started with advocacy, saying, look, you can't do this. Let each person fix their prices based on their business model. Quite frankly, someone who's a POS in a top building in Ikeja, their overhead cost is very different from the young lady who's a POS with an umbrella in front of my dad's home way back in Kogi State. And so that person's business is different. And by the way, the people that person is serving, different from the people this other fellow in Lagos is serving. What they can afford is very different also. And so you can't fix prices that way. And so we started with that advocacy. They rejected it. In fact, they spat in our faces. And then we moved towards enforcement with respect to the executives of the association. That pulled them out, and based on that, we've engaged. We now build a very collaborative relationship, and even the association has become a platform for us to provide business guidance to their members. And so we'll continue to do that work too. We have all kinds of problems with price fixing. The last, some months ago, I went to the barber shop and I saw his price list as approved by the Kosofe Barbers
Association.
The same thing with the vulcanizer and all of that.
Yeah.
And all of those things need to be unlocked bit by bit, one day at a time. Competition law regulation is extremely young in Nigeria. We didn't get the law until 2019. That's the first time we got a composite regulator. And so it's going to take time to ultimately make the practice and the culture institutionalized. But I might say in 5 years, we've done quite a bit. And peer review, both continentally and globally, seem to reflect exactly the same thing by saying that Nigeria has covered quite some good space in the period where we've existed.
Time is fast spent, but I have two more questions. I'll put it two in one. I saw revenue from government from 2017, 1 billion, 3.3 billion in 2018, 1.3 billion in 2019. I hope these figures are correct. But I want to ask you, do you need more when it comes to budgeting from government? That is one. And what more should we expect in 2024?
Good. So we don't get any money from the Treasury anymore. We pay our salaries, we do everything.
Wow.
We're completely self-funded. But by that same token, it doesn't mean that all the money that comes to us is available for us to hold parties. True. At the end of the day, I mean, both public finance, even private finance, are based on budget, right? And so if you say that you made 50 billion and you've remitted 20 billion to the government, does that necessarily mean you have 30 billion to play with? No. You still budgets are based on need. And there's an appropriation process. So even our budget is subject to appropriation. And so we would budget what we need, we would defend that budget, and only if it is appropriated. So it doesn't matter if we've remitted 20 billion to the government out of 50. If our budget is only 5 billion, the way the rules work is we can't spend more than that 5 billion. And at the end of the year, the government is going to come take whatever is left beyond the budget. And so ultimately, what the government gets is a combination of periodic statutory remittances and annual sweep at the end of the year. Because I've had people asking me, oh my God, today that means you guys have a lot of money considering what you've remitted. But that's not the case. I mean, it's go straight to jail, do not pass go card to spend beyond appropriation. And so we have a budget. Our budget doesn't exhaust everything that is left in our account after our monthly remittances, but we will spend in accordance with our budget. And when the year ends, the Accountant General comes, draws a line under it, takes all of it away, and that's okay. It's government money anyway.
2024, what more should we expect?
I think companies should continue to enjoy the approach that the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has taken to say, look, let's unlock all the things that make your business difficult. Yes. I think as a regulator of commerce, we would walk in that line. But the flip side of that is we're going to make sure anything that you need to do your business from our side, you have it. But we're going to hold you accountable for whatever you do wrong. Because, like I said, you can exploit people, you can distort the market, and expect that a slap on the wrist. I've had people criticize us for that. I'm sorry, I respect their criticisms, but I have absolutely no apologies for a robust accountability framework.
I trust you. Thank you so much, Executive Vice Chairman, Chief Executive Officer, Federal Competition Consumer Protection Commission, Mr. Babatunde Irukera. Thank you so much for joining us this Christmas Day. Let me get a Christmas handshake from you. Thank you so much. A Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you.